Hello my gorgeous ones, welcome to Alicia Budget Beauty. My name is Alicia. Here on my channel, I love all things affordable fashion, beauty, fragrance. I do hauls, tutorials, reviews, all sorts of fun stuff. So if that sounds good to you, please subscribe, stick around, be a friend. All right, you guys, not too long ago, I did a video on palettes that exceeded my expectations. And my dear friend Marty commented in the comment section and said, I want to see a video on the palettes that didn't meet your expectations. Well, I told her that's kind of hard because if they didn't meet my expectations, I probably decluttered them, and I do have declutter videos if you guys want to check that out. But then I thought, well, I do still have palettes in my collection that I still enjoy that are not in a declutter category, but that still maybe didn't quite meet my expectations or exceed them, even though I still really enjoy them. So I have 8 of those technically, and one is kind of an outlier. It is what is on my eyes today, and I will tell you why it's sort of in this category, sort of not. So if you want to see these palettes that I still really like, still want to keep in my collection, but just missed the mark of my expectations, keep on watching. All right, so the first palette that I'm talking about that like kind of fits in this category, but it kind of doesn't, that I do have on my eyes today, and I do really enjoy this look actually. I finally used this palette today. This is my first time using this palette today, so you're kind of getting my first impressions of this. This is the ZC palette. I kept calling it the Crystal Skull palette because I swear that if you Google that, this palette pops up, but on the back it says fireworks. But it has a skull. I'm confused how this is a fireworks palette. Anyway, I decided to use this palette because in my last video, I did feature a ZC palette that exceeded my expectations. It was one of the Alice in Wonderland palettes. And what I said about that palette is it surprised me because this is a Chinese beauty brand. And a lot of times the Asian eyeshadow formula can be more ethereal and light. And, you know, like if you tried Kaja and their bentos, it's very just, you know, light, sparkly, and then the mattes take some building up. But like there was some really good pigmentation in that palette. So it exceeded my expectations. And I realized I had never tried this palette. This is one that I honestly bought for the packaging because I think it's so beautiful. ZC has gorgeous packaging. Let me show you the color story inside. Also, I haven't taken this off yet. This is the protective little sleeve here. And I mean, look at the detail that was in here, including that little sugar skull. And here is the color story, which the color story is kind of amazing. It's gorgeous. It has these cool tones in it, and then it has neutrals. You do have like these purpley pinks and blues. You have one glitter type. It's kind of like a flaky glitter. It's on my eyes right now. And then you have shimmers and mattes in here. And I'm not sure if you can really see because I've dug into them now, but it had really cute little imprints of skulls and like the skull hand. They're like different parts of the body of the skull. So cute, so detailed. So because the Alice in Wonderland kind of exceeded my expectations, I thought, okay, this color story is gorgeous. I never touched it because it was just too pretty to touch. I expect this to be really, really good. And honestly, it is pretty good. Like I really, really like this eye look. I think the colors are gorgeous. And I think had this been the first one I tried from ZC, I would have been like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. But I was expecting the shimmers to be a little bit better. The mattes are really, really nice. Look how pretty they blend together. I used all the purples in here, the pinks, and then the blue for this under lash and the liner. But the shimmers are just, they are that kind of typical, you know, like light sparkly. They're not bad. They're not meant to be like pow. Like that's just not their aesthetic, which is cool. Like it doesn't all have to be these crazy multi-chromes or like blinding shimmers. It just, you know, I wanted like a little bit more, but it's still a really pretty palette. And so I'm including this in this category, even though I'm like, it could have gone in the exceeded had I tried it first. All right, so moving on, we have the Sigma Beauty Cinderella palette. Now, I have the Untamed palette, and I will say some of these depends on when I got them. So say I got them a long time ago, or tried the formula a long time ago, maybe it was really good back then, but it's not now, and you know, kind of, I'll get to that here in a minute. But the Untamed palette was my first Sigma palette, and I hadn't tried a ton of formulas back then, and I thought it was really good. And so then I thought, oh, the Cinderella, like I've always loved Cinderella. I just, you know, the color story, the packaging really got me. So the detail, I do love this little detail sleeve they put in there. And here is the color story, which I think, losing my brush, it did come with the brush. Honestly, I think this is Sigma's prettiest color story they've ever done, palettes wise. I love that you had like a black in here, these neutrals, then it moves to these beautiful looking shimmers. But whenever I tried this several times right after I got it, it was so patchy. It was kind of my first, I think it was really my first palette of a brand that I thought I really liked, that I was always talking really highly of, that I was like, oh, I can't really give this a good review. And that was kind of my first step into, you don't have to always blow smoke up brands' butts. You can be honest if something doesn't perform like you want it to. As much as I wanted to love this color story, I was just like, it just doesn't perform well. It's so patchy. It was mainly like this blue and this green that were so patchy for me. Now I've kept this because I put it away. I didn't try it for a long time. And honestly, I need to bring it back out because my skills have gotten better. So I'm thinking, well, maybe back then it was an application thing. Maybe I could use different techniques and make this work for me. So I am going to try this again here pretty soon. And if it absolutely doesn't work for me, I probably will declutter this one. But it's a shame because I think it's A+ packaging and color story for sure. Okay. Next, we have one of my beloved brands that I share all the time and get PR from. I have every palette but one, and is Nomad Cosmetics. This was last year's holiday release, and it's, again, adorable packaging. Nomad always gets it right with that. It's the Santa's Village. I did do a video on this back then, and when I ended the video, I said, I honestly cannot recommend this palette. It's not a bad palette, but I said, you know, I'm not going to tell you to go out there and buy this palette. Now I've kind of grown to appreciate this, honestly, but this was the first time that Nomad included these topper shimmers in here, and I just wasn't used to that. I was used to the shimmers that were in, like the Monteverde palette or the Paradise Islands palette, even the Hudson Valley palette that came out right before this. They were just these really beautiful, easy to use, soft shimmers. And then these came with these toppers, and I was like, what is going on? They are so dry, and I'm hitting hard pan and I can't pick them up. And I was very honest with the owner. I have a good relationship with her. And so I just said, hey, heads up, I don't love that formula, and I didn't give it the best review. I've got to be honest with you. And she was so receptive to it. She said, I always welcome criticism, feedback. And they have since changed their shimmer formula now that is excellent. The Ghost Town USA shimmer formula is so good. And I just think it's really neat that they took that criticism. But this one, I was so excited for, because I just thought the shimmers looked so pretty, and they didn't perform like I wanted them to. But it's now I kind of understand how to use toppers. Now that I know what it is, I actually kind of like this palette, but it still did not meet my expectations. Okay, now maybe get blowback from this. Just remember, I'm not saying I do not like these palettes or that I hate them or they're terrible. They just didn't meet my expectations. And this is a palette where it comes in to play when I tried this palette. So this is the Jackie Aina collab with Anastasia Beverly Hills. Here is the palette. So you guys, I did not try this palette when it first came out. I did not try this palette when it was the era of Anastasia Beverly Hills like mania. And when there weren't a lot of other formulas out there, you know, this was the brand. This is like this brand. That's back when like Too Faced and Anastasia Beverly Hills, MAC, you know, those were like, wow, these are eyeshadows. Now it's pretty well known that the formula is not terrible, but it is not amazing anymore. I mean, and for me, I tried this palette for the first time around a year and a half ago. And I was like, had I tried this years and years ago before I got so into all the different formulas, I would have thought this was amazing. But because I've tried so much, I was like, it's good. It's good. It's just not like, I didn't put this on and go, wow, oh my gosh, if that makes sense. I do like the color story. I do think there is an appeal. I think that she's very talented. So I will keep this, but it's just, it didn't, I was like, oh, okay. It didn't wow me. All right, next we have, dun dun dun, okay, Pat McGrath, Moonlit Seduction. Now I have every mothership except for 2. So, and then I have the holiday special motherships as well. So I know my Pat McGrath. I love Pat McGrath. I want her to do other stuff though. She needs a new color story brain, basically. Like I need something else from her because when she gets it right, she gets it right. But honestly, this is like a lot of people's favorite mothership palette and the one that people went the most crazy for, I feel like. And I don't know, this shade in particular, this brown, I have difficulties with. It gets a little bit muddy on me, and I do love this palette. Okay, I do love it. I'll say I really, really like it. I don't know if I love it. But I just expect more when I pay a lot. I did get this on sale. I've got all my ways that I get these for the cheapest possible using Rakuten and sales and things like that. So I didn't pay full price, but even for what I paid for around $80, it still didn't quite meet my expectations. I still really like it, but I love Utopian Dream more. I even love Divine Rose 2, just a little bit more, Bronze Seduction. I mean, I would put Sublime. I put a lot above this one for as much hype as it got. Okay, then we have another one. I'm getting now where people will be like, what? So this is the Adept Heather Austin palette. And I know for a lot of people, this is like their favorite Adept palette. Maybe had I tried this one first, I would just have been like, wow, blown away. But as it is, I tried Amunet first, I believe, or no, did I try, I think it was Amunet first, and then Minka, and then I have the Arrow inspired palette, and I have Sumerian Sunset, and just all of those I like better than this one. It just, I don't know, maybe I actually need to play with this more. This is another one that I play with it more, I may change my mind, but at least the first 2 times I used it, I was like, huh, it's beautiful. It's still Adept. It's still amazing. It just, other Adept palettes, when I'm putting it on and I go, whoa, whoa, as I'm putting it on, I know I'm like, it's meeting my expectations. But this one, I was just kind of like, So that is why I included that one. Now, I've kind of mentioned this a couple of times, and I know this will be met with, are you kidding me? But it is the Groundworks palette from Danielle Myrix, and this is another one that I probably need to play with more solely on the eyes. It's just, for me, this was sold to me and like the consumers as an all over palette. For me, this does not work anywhere but my eyes. And as is, I was like, it's just, I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it. Honestly, the cream formula in here, I recently reviewed the Mirage palette from Alter Ego, and there are 2 cream shadows in there that, in my opinion, blow these out of the water. And that palette's $24. Of course, it's totally different. It's not the same concept, but I expected so much more from this. So I need to play with it more, but it definitely didn't meet my expectations. I'm not saying it's terrible, just didn't meet my expectations. The last two are Natasha Denona palettes. Now I've grown to come around on Natasha Denona. I did declutter one, so I can't include that in this. There would be a lot more palettes in this video had I not already decluttered them. That was the Sunrise palette. That was the first palette I ever tried. No, I take it back. Lila, the mini, was the first I ever tried, and the purple, and that was so patchy. I decluttered that. Then I tried the Sunrise. The shimmers were so lackluster to me. Decluttered that one. So what I have left that I didn't declutter, but aren't like the best, in my opinion, is the Love palette. Now this one, I do love the mattes in here. This is when I started to go, okay, I see the love of the mattes because they're really good, but for me, the shimmers in this are just okay again. And I was like, what is the deal with Natasha Denona? I just don't understand the craze. That was really until the Yucca, I Need a Nude, and I love the Fez palette. So, and I'm going to get the Xenon palette. So I've grown to really appreciate Natasha Denona. My problem with her is it's just so inconsistent, because to me, like, the shimmers in here are just meh. So didn't meet my expectations. And the other one was a recent one that I do have a look with in a review recently. And that is the Mini Trio Chrome Chrome palette. I just expected so much, because at this point I had grown to really, really appreciate Natasha Denona, and I just thought, ooh, there's a multi-chrome in here, how exciting. And then it just was like, okay. And the mattes aren't as vibrant as they look in here, so it didn't quite meet my expectations. I hope Xenon does, because I'm very, very excited about that palette. But that is it, you guys. Those are all the palettes that I still have in my collection that didn't quite meet my expectations, but I still have some sort of appreciation for, and so far they're staying in my collection. And like I said, I have a whole lot more, but I already decluttered them. So you guys will have to let me know if you have any like this in your collection too. And as always, have fun shopping, budget shopping. Bye.